Welcome to Do Hard Things. My name is Mike Dowling, and I get to help companies build businesses in the cloud. Each episode, I'll introduce you to an inspiring company, leader, or message that just may help you understand how doing hard things will take you to a new level. Thank you for finding me, and let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Do Hard Things. You know, I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I have to speak with so many of the faces behind the partners that I get to work with. I started doing these episodes because I was fascinated with the many different ways that people lead their teams to achieve success. Now, I know nothing is easy, and nothing worth doing should be easy. And this is especially true for business leaders. There are so many different business leadership styles, and the more people that I talk to, the more I realize that not being afraid to do hard things is the hallmark of some great leadership. And we're all on this journey together, and I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you. Today, we are talking with Justin Copie. Now, he's the CEO of Innovative Solutions, and Justin's story starts back when he was 20 years old as the youngest employee at Innovative. And he started out on the ground floor as a sales representative. His knack for failing more than anyone else really led to his insatiable desire for learning more. And his ever-growing hunger for driving change is what has advanced him from going from an account executive to a business development leader to executive VP, and then to the chief servant of others as the CEO. And Justin Copie, welcome to Do Hard Things.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you having me on, and thank you for the awesome intro. It's I don't know who wrote that or who provided some of that info, but thank you. I really appreciate it.
Listen, it's really a great honor for me to talk to you, but I'm really curious if you can give us a little bit of insight into what Innovative Solutions is for the audience.
I'm happy to. Innovative is not a born in the cloud AWS partner. I always start by telling people that because many partners of AWS, they're born in the cloud, and they've got the battle scars to prove it. Truth be told, my company is well over 30 years old. We actually were founded in 1989. I was in kindergarten at the time, and I have no relationship to the founders other than they're great mentors, and they're great human beings that over the years have taught me much, and have had an opportunity to enjoy the ride as well. The reality is today we help small to mid-sized businesses leverage the power of the cloud, and the cloud that we choose to partner virtually exclusively with is AWS. We feel as though AWS is by far the best products and services in the market for any company that's looking to become a technology company to leverage. And so we help businesses throughout North America, both in the United States and Canada. And today we help just under 1,000 small to mid-sized businesses. By the end of this year, it'll be probably closer to 1,200 or so. And it's just been a phenomenal ride. In 2018, we decided to pivot what was, I guess you could call like a legacy managed services provider business, a legacy software development business. We were really full stack developers, also offered managed services to customers at the time. They were predominantly on-prem. And we decided to tool up and partner in a significant way with AWS. And I love the name of this podcast because it's something that we've prided ourselves on for a very long time. I wasn't like the best student in school, but I always worked my tail off, and I always did as like good as I possibly could. And I never have been fearful of doing the hard things. My background is in tech, but also in sales. And I think in many ways, sales is a great example of when you do the harder things, like the things that nobody else wants to do as a salesperson, you typically yield better results. And so I love the name of the podcast for many reasons, but that's just one.
Give me an example of the harder things to do as a sales rep that maybe some people, don't know about and should probably start doing if they want to see success?
Sure. Well, I think it's really hard for a lot of people to pick up the phone and call a business that you potentially know or don't know that you can offer services to and ask for a meeting. I think it's actually a really hard thing for many people to do. Sometimes I'll test for it in an interview. Somebody tells me that they're, a really great salesperson. I'll literally slide a phone across the table to them and just ask them to call somebody and pitch them.
Yeah,
Get a
the
meeting.
stepping outside of the comfort zone. What are they afraid of? Is it fear of rejection? Is that a real thing?
I think I think we're all like really afraid of being rejected. I think
Yeah.
in many ways we're all these fragile human beings walking around that like we're scared of things, and some of us, I don't know, we're in touch with it enough to be able to admit it. Some of us were brought up never to show that.
Mm.
All sorts of stuff wound up in the psychology around that, but um, yeah, I mean, like in sales, like rejection's a huge thing that keeps us all, away from sales and ever getting into a sales career. And then some of us crazy ones, like myself, we run toward it. And, we see the opportunity and we see the challenge, and we don't want to be a part of anything unless it's challenging and unless it's got on the other side of it some level of fulfillment that we couldn't have otherwise gained. And, um, I think that's true of anything like that we find success in as not just entrepreneurs or leaders, but as even an individual contributor. Like if you think about like when you started your career, like I don't know what you started doing, but I started um in telesales. Like that's where I started. And so like for me, dialing for dollars, I knew nothing about it when I started at 18 years old in a call center, outbound, traditional
Yeah.
telesales. And I figured out a way that worked for me to be successful in it. And it was super fulfilling. It was very rewarding because I was able to find success. And, I think in any profession, you wanna be able to figure out how to master it in your own way. And if there isn't that element of challenge, in my opinion, it's not worth doing.
Wow. I do see a parallel with people who are willing to step outside of that comfort zone, pick up a phone, call people. It really flies against the face of what a person does to protect themselves. The whole do hard things really comes from uh, a um, a book that I've read by Seth Godin. It was called Linchpin, and in this book, he started he started to help me understand why you were afraid of doing things, and it's not necessarily the failure; it's the judgment that you're getting, where people are like, what do you know? And why do you think you can do this? Who gave you that, confidence to go and do something that we don't believe that you can do? And the crazy part is it's mostly from your friends and your family, the people that you surround yourself with. And what Seth indicated was, that's a thing that your amygdala is telling you, you've got to stop because you are going to be cast out and people aren't going to want to be friends with you. They've created this monster mentality that you have to avoid it and save yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that go and do it anyway, go to the hard thing, the thing that they're afraid of, break through that. And they realize that this is all in your mind. 90% of what you think bad is going to happen is not going to happen.
So true.
So
true.
I'm glad that you saw that early on. And I think dialing out and asking people to buy something is a good way to go do that.
I agree. My mom, she is my parents are huge influences on my life. They always have been. They continue to be today. But my mom, she as I was growing up, she was always an Oprah fan. She still loves Oprah. And Oprah she has this very famous quote that what you dwell on is who you become. And my
Mm.
mom would oftentimes remind me, like, to be careful about what I let linger inside my mind, and be careful about it, because it will ultimately, it will become you. And I think, to your point around dwelling on the rejection or what others might think, and all the other stuff that creeps into our brains, building that discipline is it's difficult, but I think the earlier in your life that you recognize that and realize it, I think the better. Now, truth be told, Mike, you and I grew up in a different generation than maybe kids are growing up in today, where the the amount of reinforcement of negativity is just so significant that I think many kids, as we see, they grow up with a lot of anxiety, and those thoughts that creep into their mind, they're not equipped to deal with those things. And I know we're getting off on a tangent, but I think as leaders of businesses, especially as we hire this current generation coming into the workforce, these are like really important things that I think we have to be conscious of. We have to understand that this is a reality, that the generations we were hiring, they don't have the same problems and issues and things that are influencing the generation, for instance, that's coming into the workforce today. And um, we can only lead effectively, I think, if we understand the environment that we're trying to lead in. And so I think it's totally appropriate to discuss, even on such a
Yeah.
wonderful
So
podcast like this.
listen, so that's really what I'm trying to hone in on today is, leadership style. Leadership styles need to adapt as, things change. And as much as I say nothing is easy, I also recognize that nothing is permanent.
Mm,
You can't manage the exact same way year in and year out in certain types of economies. There has to be some ability for you to um, continue to evolve.
mhm.
So let's talk about the leadership style that you have. What is it that you encourage your teams to do in order to help them achieve success that maybe they're not even aware that they could achieve?
That's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to do in business. It's something that Ruba Borno and I share. So Ruba and I were together just a few weeks ago, and she shared with me um, that one of the reasons that she has found so much fulfillment in her career is watching how people around her grow in ways that they never thought that they even could do. And we had this extremely rich dialogue around this very topic. And I have often said that, like, as a leader, I can't motivate anybody. As a human being, I don't think anybody's going to motivate me. I think at the end of the day, it's what we do with ourselves that really matters. Now, I can share a vision. I can push. I can help you focus. I can provide resources to give you added ability. But at the end of the day, you're going to decide whether or not you're motivated to do whatever it is in front of you. And I think the power of choice is a simple concept of making sure that people understand that they're in control, that nobody's controlling necessarily where they go. And I'll give you an example that might be helpful. Uh, I I feel like I'm a little unorthodox in my leadership, considering I will ask my employees every single year to go interview for a new job. Many leaders would literally put things in place that prevent this from happening. Maybe even, I don't know, threaten non-compete, non-solicit agreements. Who knows, right? Actually take the exact opposite approach, and I've been doing this since 2016 when I bought the business. I ask all of our employees to essentially renew their vows. So if you've been with the organization for at least a year, I think it's important that you understand two things. Number one, what your value is within the organization, within Innovative. But I also think it's important that you understand what your value is if you were to leave, if you were to go do your own thing. Let's say you were to start your own business and you're entrepreneurial. Well, you should know what you're getting yourself into. But for the majority of people, that's what if I took another job? And if you look at the market today, I mean, this is like opportune time. I mean, geez, I'm the only person in the business because I'm the owner. I'm the only person that can't go interview for a new job, and I wonder every day, like, gosh, it's just such an amazing market to be an employee and to seek elsewhere, new employment. And so the purpose behind me agitating and really trying to get people to get up and go seek elsewhere is also because I think sometimes we can think the grass is greener without doing our research. And I think a well-informed employee is better than one that isn't. Just like I think a well-informed customer is always better than one that isn't. And old school tactics or old school beliefs. So you mentioned like as a leader, you have to also evolve and you have to know that like the world is different today than even when it was 5 years ago, right? Like customers today, they have access to so much more information than in 2003 when I was picking up the phone dialing for dollars, telling about this little company, Innovative Solutions, that offers managed services or AS400 programming service. Like the world is just so much different today. And so I lead with this belief of the employees are really what's driving everything. I also lead with a philosophy that we are only as good as our weakest employee, not our weakest customer, not our worst customer. It's actually, it has nothing to do with the customer. It has everything to do with the only product, quote unquote, on my shelf, because I don't have a product on the shelf. Everything that I sell is knowledge-based, it's time-based, it's centered around these professional services of these brilliant engineers and cloud architects and folks that know how to help customers leverage the power of the cloud. And so if my employee is in not so good a headspace or having a bad day or going through a life situation and is questioning whether or not they're in the right place, that's going to be reflected in the quality of the service that's delivered to our customers. I think that's honestly, Mike, it's a huge reason our customer satisfaction results are through the roof. It's a huge reason we're the fastest growing AWS partner in SMB. It's a huge reason that so many AWS sellers want to work with our people because we talk like human beings. We don't. We're not talking over them. Do we have like tons of ways that we can get better? Of course, and that's what makes this interesting. But at the end of the day, I look at it like our employees, like they're driving. It's maybe my vision. It's my leadership team's responsibility to obviously help paint the course of where we're heading. But at the end of the day, if they're not on board, we can't make them. Like, my biggest fear is in the morning, and all of our employees know this. My biggest fear, I swear to God, I wake up every single morning and I think to myself, is anybody going to show up today? Will our employees like they show up? Because if they don't, I literally don't have a business. Like it's my employees are my Achilles heel. And so I do everything in my power to help make sure they have everything they need to do the stuff they love.
So you ask them to renew their vows and really write out what it would be that they, what they bring to the table or what they want to bring to the table. How do they do that? I mean, is it a big long document that they write, or are there bullet points that they put together and stick on the wall? What's the process?
It starts with routine conversations. I say they're routine because I believe if you create a cadence of anything, it becomes habitual, and once it's a habit, you can more easily stick with it. And I think it's really important for every leader. If you have a direct report, somebody that you are responsible for, I mean, like that's how I define it. You should meet with that person every single day. You should talk to them every single day, even if it's 5 minutes. So it starts with routine conversation around what each employee is feeling, what they're doing, where they see themselves. And I think the best leaders, like if I think about all the leaders and bosses I've had in my career, both good and bad, I think we would all agree, like the worst boss any of us ever had is the one that like they didn't give a crap about what we were thinking. They took the credit for all of our hard work. They, micromanaged, or they were so far removed from any of the work and all they did was take credit for the result. Like we can pinpoint all those things. And so I think having a conversation with an employee and genuinely trying to get underneath, what is it that you like to do in the current job that you're doing? What do you want to keep doing? In other words, what is it that you'd like to learn more about, or where would you like to go? And like, what would that include? And then collaboratively creating a way for that employee to get there. I mean, I think that's a huge reason we have such high retention in our organization. I also think too, Mike, I think it's a big reason in our company why when people leave, typically, not always, but 8 out of 10 times, it's not a surprise. It's been talked about. We know where this is going. And so we have this, everybody's job description is unique. We have this process called write your own job description. So your job description is living and breathing and you're constantly writing it. And that becomes like the guiding thing that every employee uses to ultimately determine whether or not they're moving in the right direction or not. And here's the reality. Depending on what is going on in somebody's life, it's going to dictate whether or not they move quickly or move at all in their role. And I've had to part ways with some employees because life just wasn't aligned to where they wanted to go, and this didn't fit anymore, and it wasn't their season any longer. You alluded to this earlier around like this evolving, changing reality. Nothing is stagnant, and I am 100% with you. I totally think you're right about that.
Yeah, well, listen, things have changed enough for me to know that what I thought was going to be my path, which did not become my path. I knew early on that there is no permanence. There are a few roles that people can do that have it mapped out for you. Mm-hmm. You can become a doctor and you can follow that protocol and that education. You can be a lawyer. There are some specific things you can do that it's all mapped out for you. Mm-hmm. But leadership in any business is definitely not a template you can follow. No. There are certain things that you have to adapt to or adopt as you go through the phases of your own life. Mm-hmm. And, as a 20-year-old sales rep, those are the times to try different things and to fail because you don't have a lot of risk. It's just you. And if your leadership is encouraging you to try these things, the risk to them is fairly mitigated. But the return that you get on doing something you never thought you could do before, that just raises the bar. And now you have another baseline. And so I'm assuming that is, when I was talking with Daniel about what it was that was your background and coming in with innovative solutions and, talking about failing so often, which made you want to learn more. Tell me a little bit about your mentality is it that you're competitive and you're like, I'm going to get this if it kills me? Mm-hmm. What's the thinking behind you just wanting to just learn as much as you can?
There's a lot there. I think like in the most authentic way I can answer that, it's the fear of it's probably the fear of dying. Like that
Wow.
for me is that's like that's the motivator, right? Like I lost my brother to a heroin overdose in 2014, and like it was, yeah, he was 3 years younger than me. And so like living forward after that, my whole life, my whole perspective on life changed and continues to evolve. But even prior to that, uh like I've always wanted to go all in and work as hard as I could to achieve a goal, to win, because that's just like in my DNA. And so it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I don't do anything 95%. I go all in. I won't do it if I can't do it 100, 110%. And I'm like any other person. I can't do everything. And so and I only have so many hours in the day too. So like when I think about my life and I think about um, my love for this business and helping customers, and how many owners and CEOs, like I'll see them post like a picture on social media, like holding their child. Like I don't have a kid. Like I don't have children. I'm not married. Like, and people sometimes are, oh, well, Justin just doesn't want kids. He doesn't want to be married. No, well, hang on a second. I'm like anybody else. Like I would love to have children. I would love to be married. I'd love to work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. Like I would love those things, but I'm not wired that way. I'm not
Yeah.
programmed that way. My desire to be the best at anything that I'm going to do in my life, it drives everything. Like when I tell you, I look at everything going on in my life and I think about how it helps to move the business forward. Nothing else. I don't think about my family. I don't think about my friends. I don't think about my beautiful dogs. I don't think about any of that. When I think about my life, it is purposeful, singular. Now, my family is incredibly important to me. There's 6 or 7 people in my life that I know I can genuinely take care of, be there for. I can't really take care of more than that. I don't think any of us really can. I love when people tell me they got 100 best friends.
No.
And again, I shared with you just, some just really candid, open thoughts around how much I go all in on this. I'll tell you right now, like no one will beat us. Like I will go to the end of the earth to serve as many customers as we can and to stay focused on our mission and to hire the best people and to do anything we need to do to make customers happy. Like I am all in on that. And listen, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't. A lot of entrepreneurs are running what I would call lifestyle businesses. A lot of entrepreneurs, they're enamored with valuations at the levels they are right now. A lot of entrepreneurs are thinking out. I'm thinking the exact opposite. I'm thinking in. I feel like, yeah, we're killing it. And, innovative could sell tomorrow to some big strategic, but here's the reality, Mike. We just got to the restaurant. We just sat down, the plate, the cutlery, the white linen tablecloth, it's all out. We haven't eaten yet. What? Sell? Absolutely not. We have so much more work ahead of us. Like, absolutely not. So, that's a little bit into my psyche and how I operate. And I think people will sometimes they'll feel a little bit of my intensity in business and what I'm all about and being like all in. I don't think they really understand why. And I really
Well,
appreciate opportunities like this, man, because it gets it out there.
yeah, well, listen, so you've touched on a whole number of things that really lend credence to the ability for somebody to want to work with you, to follow you. You're a leader with passion. And it's very difficult to get others to have the same excitement that you have when maybe they're an employee.
Mm-hmm.
and they will definitely not have the same passion or show passion if you can't convey that passion in a way that makes them just want to take charge and go. So you have to do a couple of other things that aren't necessarily obvious. One of those things is showing this kind of vulnerability, right? Showing that, hey, listen, you can't do everything. You have to rely on people on your team to add to the whole that the business is, and not just do it once, but continuously add to that. And you have to be that person that encourages that. And there's going to be some failures along the way. And I think what you're doing by asking your team to renew their vows every year, to write down where it is that they're at, it helps set the stage for them to see where they're comfortable. And if they're comfortable, that means that they're not growing. Where can they start to apply some discomfort? And I think that is the foundation of your philosophy around setting them up to not be afraid of failure. How do you do that with your team?
So I think you're right. And I will just say one thing, because it sounds great, but it's also not for everybody. And my team does an amazing job only letting people in to the business, into our company, into our family that want to grow. So I think sometimes it's like that part's left out. Listen, this is not my business is not for everybody. If you come work at Innovative, like, it's a whole other level. And I don't even want to get into the whole work-life integration and being able to turn off work and all of that, because that is extremely important. The skill of being able to turn off work and be there for your family and do the things that you need to do in your life to live a fulfilling life, that is extremely important. One of the things I tell every candidate is Innovative will take every hour of your day if you let it. You have to come to this organization with the skill to be able to turn it off when you need to, and to be able to turn it on and leave it on when you need it to,
Right.
For a variety of different reasons. Younger, more entry-level folks, they need help developing that skill, which we have a program to do so. But my leaders, they need to come to the table with that skill. But hiring people that are really hungry to grow, there's this idea, and I look for it especially when I'm interviewing or I'm introducing new leaders into our organization. I like people who are mercurial. They move. They don't ever sit in one place. And I tend to gravitate toward people that like they would
Try
have
new
their hands
things.
in this. What's that?
That try new things.
Try new things. A question I'll ask people, actually frequently, is how often have you moved? Like, have you lived in the same house for 15 years, 20 years? I couldn't do that. I literally need to move. And if you study successful people, they will tell you they're always moving. They're moving to create new connections. They're moving to meet new people. They're moving to where their business is going to move. We have this really interesting office. Our headquarters is in Rochester, New York.
Yep.
And for your listeners who may or may not know, Rochester is the birthplace of Kodak. George Eastman, the founder, was in Rochester. And so we have all this Kodak history. Our business, our headquarters is in an old Kodak building.
Oh, wow.
In 2002, the building was shut down. The whole campus was shut down. Kodak eventually sold it. A developer purchased it in 2017. And in 2018, we were the first tenant in the building. And on the first day in that building, we were about 55 employees at the time. We're about 120 employees today. We were in an all-hands meeting. I said, look at the bricks around the building. The whole building's brick. It's beautiful. World-renowned architect built the building in 1967. I said, look at these bricks. Let these bricks be a reminder of what happens when you allow yourself to become irrelevant.
Mm.
And it was a really interesting time for us because in 2018, if you recall, I set out with our leadership team to pivot the entire organization to go all in on the cloud, from on-prem to the cloud. And I had a number of people that had no idea if we could do that. And it was a big risk, but obviously it's paid off so far. Point being, you have to always be looking at how you can change, what that means, and understand that you may also make a lot of mistakes along the way trying to figure out what fits. And nobody's batting 1,000. There's no
Right.
perfect seasons, right? Like, and so we talk about that often. But this idea that people like need to constantly be evolving, we seek that. And my comment earlier about like life happens to some people, like they'll be in this fast growing career at Innovative, and then life will happen, something will happen, whatever, a life event, and they can't change because they need it status quo, and then they'll transition out. Like, this is our organization is not an organization people come to retire in. It is an organization where people come, they build their careers, and they move forward. And that's a choice, right? Like, that's not every business has to run that
Well,
way.
it's exciting because there's an expectation that you're always in motion. And so that means that you're encouraging them to be comfortable in ambiguous environments because you're changing quite often.
Yeah.
And so are you creating a safe environment for I'm trying to find the right word. It's almost like speculation. You're trying to figure out a way to try new things, and you want them to be thinking differently. What is that safe environment that you've created? Is it like, we don't know all the answers, just give us an idea and let's see if it works? Is it what we call a two-way door at Amazon?
I love the two-way, one-way door analogy. We talk about that at Innovative because, like, if we put somebody in a position that we call setting them up for failure, which when we use the term, it's really is it a one-way door situation where we're putting somebody in a situation to make that decision or subject themselves that they're not going to be able to get themselves out of. So we're very cautious of that. I think it starts with when somebody new comes into the organization. So every new employee, they get a handwritten letter from me. They get a book. I choose a book for them. I love to read. So we have this whole library at Innovative. So I pick a book based on their profile and their background. I work with our recruiters to figure out what each employee, like what they would gain or what they would get out of it. And in my letter, there is, for every single employee that I write this letter for, I remind them that people come to Innovative to swim in the deep end. This is not a play it safe environment. This is an environment where if you're playing it safe, you're by like definition, you're not doing your job. And so we're encouraging people to challenge the status quo. And right now, probably more than any other time, like guaranteed more than any other time, I need every new employee, because we doubled in size in less than 11 months. I need every employee to challenge the way that we maybe used to do something, because of the fact that if we're doing something today, like a process in our business today that we were doing 2 or 3 years ago, it's broken. It's literally broken. It won't work, and we have to change it. Like, we grew so fast that we've now just all become just walking change agents. Even the OGs, those of us that have been around for a long time. And so our new people coming in, they're like, that doesn't work. Why would you ever even consider doing it that way when at my last company we did it this way? Okay, let's try it.
Let's try that. Yeah.
There's very much a culture in our business of trying new things. However, I'm not into trying new things just to try new things. A. And B, I like educated, data-driven recommendations. So it's very easy for somebody in day 2 at Innovative to come in and say, oh, you should just change these 3 things. We should do it tomorrow. okay, well, you don't have enough time yet under your belt to even get the data to support that decision. And B, I'll always ask for alternatives. You can't just bring one solution at a time. You got to bring 3 or 4. That's also part of our culture. Like you got to work through it. And we're very much a committee-oriented organization, so it's hard for somebody just to make a change for change's sake. There usually is a team involved. Very similar to Amazon with the pizza rule. Like we just we have found that many of the things that we align to with AWS, they tend to drive us in a direction that's much more aligned as you would imagine. And I think, lastly, as an organization, we've all worked with people that they just like suck. You don't want to work with them. We call it the no asshole policy. So we actually have a policy where we will not hire an asshole. And the way that it's vetted is every employee, before they get in the door, they actually have to go through 5, maybe 6 different people. Sometimes it can be more. And we vet it. We try to figure out whether or not this person is going to just not work well with everybody else because of their own arrogance, the fact that they've done it elsewhere 16 times and they're going to just tell us how to do it. All the things when you've worked with somebody, it's just a complete, like, you're like, I don't even want to go to this meeting because I know they're going to be there. So we have this policy that we won't hire them. And so I think when you get people that have different ideas, because our people do not all think alike by a long shot, but they all know if they're going to be a jerk, that it doesn't fly. It's good guardrails, and it's also a good preface for going into anything. Like, we can break it, we can break some glass, and that's going to be okay. We don't like the drama. One of your guests, who's a friend of mine, Jonathan Leaf. In my opinion, one of the strongest leaders at AWS. Jonathan, he's a no drama guy. He just doesn't put up with it. And I remember when we started working heavily in Central, I loved that because we would see drama in some of the other territories that we were working in, and we never really caught it in Central. And
how do you get rid of drama? How do you nip it in the bud?
It's top down. It's one of those weird things. I truly believe it's top down. If you let it permeate from the top down, it's not good. If it's demonstrated and it's a behavior set that is reinforced from the top down, I think even people who naturally have a disposition to gravitate toward drama, I think they learn very quickly that it's either not the right place for them or they keep their mouth shut and they won't stir it up. I think also there's things that insinuate drama. We're a culture where we call out a lot of things on people. So I have this other idea. I guess it's an ideology now, because there's many folks that now have subscribed to this. We call it holding the mirror up for somebody.
Oh, wow.
So you can be with anybody in the company. You can be like, do you want me to hold the mirror up? And most of the time people will tell you yes, because they instantly stop in their tracks. And they're like, oh man, I'm coming off some kind of way. Yes, hold the mirror up for me. And then oftentimes other people, especially our leaders in the organization, they're encouraged to say to their employee, like, can you hold the mirror up for me? Like, how am I coming across? Like, am I being too difficult? How is this being perceived? Because a lot of times you just don't know. You don't know how you're being perceived. You think you know, but you really don't unless you ask. And so we found that that's like another good way to just kind of cut through it. And it stomps out drama because you're calling it out. You're not letting it fester, because I think that's what happens in a lot of situations. So
you are talking about some of the most difficult things that is in the workplace today, which is having straight conversation, straight talk, not mincing words, being very fact-based, and not responding to drama. And, it's almost like let's just talk about a person who is not having a good time, right? Having difficulty working with a group.
Mm-hmm.
maybe that person should be comfortable with having a clearing, right? Just get up and say, something's not working right. I need you to understand where I'm at. And that's almost like putting a mirror back to the people that they're working with about something that is not helping another person. And if we did a better job of having those kinds of straight talk conversations, there wouldn't be as much drama. So I love what you're doing there. This is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
Many folks don't know how to provide feedback in a constructive way, or they're too soft. They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. So,
well, it's usually in a destructive way, and they want to just put their thumb up.
Yeah. And I fall victim to it as well because of my intensity and the fact that like I am always striving for just a whole other level, shifted into a different gear. I tend to at times get myself into situations where I'll say something, I'll be like, oh man, I know that didn't come off right. And I think too, a lot of times I'll get into situations where I'll say something, I don't realize it. Somebody will hit me up after the fact. But I think having the culture where people feel comfortable to be able to do that, I think that's really critical. I mean, like we didn't have the culture that we do. Like, I don't know if I could work in a big enterprise because so much of my career has been focused around the things within our culture today at Innovative that work. And I think that's like another important thing for people to think about when they join a company. Like, all right, so you've worked in enterprise, or you've only worked in SMB, you're going to go work in the opposite. How are you going to do in that environment? What are the things that are going to make you feel uncomfortable, or where are you going to be your eyebrows raised? Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that conversation, or we would never have had that conversation in my other gig or whatever. And I don't think people think about that enough. And especially now when there's so much turnover and people are leaving and joining in new companies, I wish people would think about some of that stuff.
I think you're touching on a few things that people do need to think about as they manage their own careers. And one of those things is, are you managing your career as a business? If you're just a taskmaster and you're being very tactical, waiting for somebody to tell you what to do, there's roles for you to play in that capacity. But if you are looking to be an influencer in the business, to be a change agent, to be somebody who is relied upon to be innovative, then you definitely need to run your business as a business, which means you've got to know how to organize your time. You need to know how to communicate with people. You need to know how to step away and maintain some, ability to have some balance in your life and look at it from a, almost a ledger perspective. Am I too much on one side and not enough on the other?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, I love because the way that you're telling me this is super passionate because it's how you're living it and it's easy to follow.
Yeah, it is. And I think sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this is another thing that oftentimes I get asked about. Like if you go to our website, innovativesol.com, and you click on the career section, you learn about some of the things that make our culture different and why people run to the door every morning to come to work. We offer a lot of things to help our employees that are, I just say they're unconventional. Probably the most unconventional is in our headquarters, we have a barber shop, and there's a barber that comes in every Thursday. I'll explain why in a minute. Every day we cater lunch to the employees free of charge. We have this amazing benefit from a company called BetterHelp that is free mental health coaching and counseling with certified folks around the world. Again, 100% free of charge. And I'm not talking like some healthcare benefit. Like this is real mental health coaching. We offer a variety of things that sometimes people look at and they're like, well, they just have the latest perk or the latest, whatever. And when I have a discussion with somebody about why we do these things and why they have a retention aspect, it's a very simple reason. The reason is not to just make the employee feel good, but it's to ultimately remove distractions. The reason I have a barber shop in our office, and it's not for me. I don't even have a lot of hair.
I like your style.
When I grow my beard out, is I don't get my beard trimmed. It's for my employees, not just to look good, but it's because a spouse of one of our employees said to me a while back, you know, Jason is always getting his hair cut every other Saturday, and I lose him for about 2.5 hours every Saturday morning, and he's not able to be with the family. And I'm like, wow, that's a great distraction I can remove. Let me
Wow.
bring the barber in, and that way you get your Saturday mornings back. The food and for lunch, every single day. The reason that we bring lunch in is because 75% of my organization is based in Rochester, New York, and those employees have a great magnet to bring them together because I know when they break bread together, even if they're in the office just for an hour or two each day, I
Yep.
know they're more engaged. I know that they have some connection, especially now in a time where we've all been removed from one another for quite a period of time. I have this policy, all of our remote employees, they can fly into Rochester. They can fly into Rochester anytime, no hands or no questions asked. All expenses paid, and they can spend as much time in the Rochester office working, for a week, a few days, whatever they want to do. Even for our furthest employee who's in Seattle,
Right.
it's a full day's worth of travel. So, removing the distractions, I think, help people focus on the things that really matter. And for us, it's obviously solving our customers' issues. It's helping themselves get better technologically. And it's also helping them understand the things that really are going to move the needle and helping them develop in their career. If we can take away those distractions, they're much more effective for our customers, and it's ROI positive.
That's fantastic. That's a great peek behind the philosophy and the culture that you've got at Innovative Solutions. I appreciate you giving me that information and that insight.
Of course.
I have a couple of questions left for you, Justin, because I want to be cognizant of your time. But the first question is, what do you think the most difficult thing or the hardest thing a leader has to do? What's your opinion on that?
Well, the easiest thing that I don't think we do enough of, that every leader should do, is praise when things are going right. I don't think any of us do that enough. I certainly don't do it enough. I don't know a leader that does it enough. And I think every employee will tell you, and we survey our employees constantly, so I get this feedback. We do not praise enough. We don't tell people where they're doing the right things enough. And it's the easiest thing to do. It's free. We just don't do it enough. And truth be told, I don't think we do it enough in our personal lives either. Like, I mean, I don't tell the people I love them enough. Like, it's just, I think it's easy to do. We just don't do enough of it. The hardest thing for all of us is probably listening. I don't know, we're, as leaders, we're expected to like always have the answer and like fix things. Here's the deal. If something comes to me, if it gets to me, if I get a text message or an email on something, it's because I've got an army of people that could not solve that problem. So I get by default, I get all the most difficult. Every entrepreneur, you get the most difficult situations. And so we're expected to always have the answer. And the reality is we don't. The reality is we're working hard, just like everybody else is, to try to do the right thing, hopefully. And listening is just like, it's one of these leadership things that I just don't think we do enough. We don't shut up. We don't pretend to or we don't do enough of the pretend, or we do too much of the pretending of
Right.
like always knowing and being right. And I think if we listen more, I I think we can all lead more effectively.
Yeah.
And, I think from that comes, if you can listen at the right amount, if you can show praise and really give your employees the feedback on where things are going right, because they're certainly going to find out where things aren't going right. You have no doubt about that. The rest is like table stakes. Like, set a clear vision, communicate that vision clearly. Like, if you can't do that, then you probably shouldn't own your own business, because like then you're just aimlessly walking around. You gotta know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, that's a problem. You gotta have business acumen, or get really good people in seats that do. Like, get a good lawyer, get a good accountant, get good people that know how to manage money. If you don't know how to do that on your own, like, get people in the seats. I don't know how any business can be successful without sales. Like, if you don't have customers, I don't know what you're doing. So you got to know something about sales, or get somebody that does, or some people that do. But all that stuff, Mike, I don't know. I don't look at that as like the differentiator. I don't think we listen enough, and I don't think that we give praise enough. I really
That's fantastic. I'd add one thing on the listening. Learn how to listen without judgment. And I think what ends up happening is something is said, it triggers the listener. The listener has to jump in and solve the problem. And the person who delivers it is like, oh my God, I just exposed something that I never want to do again, and I feel terrible. And really, it's the judgment that they're afraid of, which is why they're not talking as much to give you an opportunity to listen. So I just love getting a peek underneath the head just to see how you're thinking, because it really is, you've got a job and you're as busy as everybody else. You've got the same number of hours in a day. How are you going to be able to solve all of these problems? And in reality, you only need to solve the one that absolutely needs solving. And you need to figure it out by listening to all these problems and helping make that decision on your own.
Well said.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so the last question I'm going to ask for you, and Justin, I would love to do this again, because I'd love to start also talking to you about how you're taking this business that you've got and where you're going to start applying some of these new solutions that you're going to be creating, where you think the rest of the industry or the companies, what the cloud business is going to look like as we exit from this pandemic we've got. We've got maybe, these concerns about recession, supply chain, there's war everywhere. I want to know what you think about what cloud is going to play in the future of business, but we don't have enough time here. So that'll be a secondary follow-up call. But the next question I want to ask you is, there's this thing that you've wanted to do. I want to know what this thing is that you've wanted to do, but you haven't done it yet. And it could be a personal thing, it can be a professional thing, but for whatever reason, you just have not gotten to it because maybe you think it's hard. I want to know what that is, and then I want to know why you haven't done it, and then I want to know what will it take for you to go and do it next.
All right. So it's really straightforward. What I really want to do is I want to go back to school. So I graduated from RIT with my undergrad, and I'm an avid learner. And so when probably my employees tell me like they're done with me and they need like somebody like really knows what they're doing to run the business, which probably could happen any day now. No, I'm just kidding. I think it will happen though in the future. I'm going to need to go do something else, and I don't want to do anything in tech. I think like my comment earlier about leaving it all out on the field, I'm putting it all in right now. So we're in this really interesting time, also as discussed before, and that's really cool and that's fun and that's amazing. And I don't think we'll ever be in our careers at a point where we are right now. Like I think we're all in a very interesting time. With that said, whenever this too shall pass, I plan to go back to school for ecology. I don't know anything about ecology. I've never taken an ecology course. Ecology is the study of how everything living interacts with its environment. And I want to learn how living things here on planet Earth just like interact with their environment. And I don't know what skills from my current career and the things that I'm learning to do now. I don't know what skills will traverse over. I'm sure I'll figure something out. Again, I have no intent to bring technology into that passion. I think like I'll end up like in the Everglades or something, trying to figure out what we could do better to save the world. It's not really an altruistic like goal of mine. It's more I want to learn something that I have no idea about. My mission in life is to leave the world better than when I came into it. It's like that. I'm mission oriented around that. Till the day I die, that'll be always my mission. And I really feel like we're doing a lot of good in tech right now. I mean, I have oodles of customer examples where like we've changed the game. Like and it feels amazing. And I love that. And we'll be written in Wikipedia one day for the work that we're doing in tech. And I love that. That's great. But I feel like the next thing for me, is just, it's different in that way. And I'm excited to do it. The place that I haven't been to that I am so excited, I will tear up, even sometimes just telling people about it, is I am dying to go to the South Pole, the real South Pole.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that get to a couple hundred miles in, but that's as far as they go. There's not as many that have gone to the South Pole. And a good friend of mine who founded a company, Cloud Checker, his name's Aaron Newman.
Sure.
Aaron wants to go with me. So Aaron and I will likely end up going here at some point. Right now, Aaron's on a plane to Guam. He's going to the Marianas Trench. So he's going to go to literally the deepest part of the world. I think he'll be like the 24th, 23rd person to ever do that, which is cool. So I know, is signed up to go because he wants to go to the South Pole too. And people always ask me like, why the South Pole? And I don't know what it is. I feel like it's a place for me that is somewhat of a calling. Like I want to visit, and I'll do it at some point. It takes a couple of weeks for a variety of reasons, including weather, but just it's a very interesting place in the world that I haven't visited that is absolutely on my list.
That's amazing. It's probably the most remote and dangerous place to go. But once you're there, I'm sure it will all be worth it. And so your whole outlook on going into the future, it follows your philosophy. You're looking for things to help you evolve. And I think the environment is a very important thing for you to be focused on because it is constantly changing. So I appreciate you giving me that little peek into what's in the future for Justin. Life is long, and we've got a long time to figure out what it is that's going to inflame our passions. So I'm excited for
that. And we should enjoy it along the way because we don't get a do-over.
That's right.
That's just the reality. So I'm with you, Mike. And I thank you so much for having me on. I loved our conversation. I totally would come back and have a follow-up anytime you want. This has been a super joy.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Daniel, thanks for getting this all set up. I really appreciate that as well. And we'll see you soon, maybe in August when you're coming back to Arizona, Justin.
I love it. I'll text you for sure. Thanks, Mike.